So welcome back, everybody. We are back over at our new property that we're developing here on the channel. I'm gonna make a huge series out of this. Behind us, we're hoping to build a little cabin here. The river is right here in the background, but something very special that we're checking out today is this old abandoned well. Does it have water? Is the water any good? How deep is it? A bunch of questions we need answered. If this works, we literally just saved thousands of dollars versus paying somebody to come in and drill a new one. So the way it works around here, you get up to 100-foot depth. There's a set price. It really doesn't matter how shallow, how deep they go, and then they charge per foot once you go past 100 feet. And it costs thousands upon thousands of dollars. So if this works, this just made our property more valuable, and that's that much more money we can put towards other things. But we don't know till we check it out. So here's the way this works, y'all. We have got what looks like a 2-inch well casing that's been driven down, capped off. I see some old plumbing underneath here, an old foot valve. Honestly, none of it looks any good. I have no idea how deep this is. We got to answer that. And that's because if the water's over 25 foot deep, well, you can't use what's called a shallow well jet pump, which is a single pipe pump. Will run a PVC tube down in there, most likely inch and a quarter pipe, and it's able to pull up and pump a pressurized tank or a system that we could potentially put up here on this platform. If you're much deeper than that, you have to do what's called a deep well jet pump. So that means it's a pump that will pressurize this casing, pressurize down with water, and then you'll still have an inside PVC pipe, and it'll shoot water back up. So the fact that it turns around and pumps, pressurizes, and then sucks back up, well, you can go a heck of a lot deeper. But I have no idea what's set up to purchase and buy. Shallow well jet pump setup, relatively affordable. I'm hoping that's what we can get away with. So we're gonna have to drop a string and some other stuff down here, test the depth of this water, pray that we hit water. If not, we have to abandon this well, hire somebody in somewhere else on the property to put us that water in that we're desperately gonna need for all the projects over here. The other thing I got to keep in mind, because this is river property, it does flood, and I'm afraid this platform at times during historical floods could potentially go underwater. So whatever we put here, we're going to go up another couple of feet and build off of this platform. This is pretty much going to turn into our well house. So I've already went to the building department and verified there is a permit on file whenever this was installed back in the day. So it was done correctly and registered, but we have no idea if it works and why there's no pump or anything anywhere. I appreciate them capping it off too, so we don't wind up with junk down in it. All right. I'm actually very excited about this. I should have come over and checked this, because this is extremely important. Just as important, really, as having power over here. And speaking of power, we just got our power turned on over here. There's an old power pole here, and we're gonna have to go around and check a bunch of electrical in this episode, and I already see some repairs that need to be made. All right, if we can see water, that'd be a really good sign. Oh my goodness. Do I see water just a few feet down? The river is super low right now, so this is a really good time to check for this water. But I swear I see water just a few feet beneath the ground. I was not expecting it to be that shallow. I don't know if y'all can see down there or not. Hard to get the camera lens and this over at the same time. I don't know if y'all can see it, but it looks like it's only a few feet down to my eyes. All right, this is already a good sign, but I don't want to get too worked up because this could be an abandoned well. We just don't know. That little bit of puddled water, they may have hit a rock right there immediately, couldn't go any further, and it's just a little bit of ground seepage or something. I want to test the ultimate depth of this well. So a good easy way to do that, some string, and I got a big stainless nut. We're just going to drop it down there and measure the depth on the string. But being that I can see it, it looks like we're well within the range of a shallow well jet pump. Ultimately, what I want to see here, now that I'm a bit nervous that the water's closer than I was expecting, I want to see that this will go down several feet past that, and it didn't just get hammered right on a rock and abandoned. All right, here goes nothing. All right, let's pull it out to see if I'm in the water just yet. Not yet. We should be able to hear when I hit it. right, so first check, we're just now touching water at this mark. I'm just gonna do a little simple overhand knot right here. Something we can easily pull back out. Now I know to measure from this knot down to the nut. Oh my goodness, y'all. Really? Okay, that's a lot shallower than I was thinking. The knot is right there. The nut is right there. We're hitting water at about 8.5 feet. That's crazy shallow. But I'm not gonna lie, that seems too good to be true. I want to make for sure that this well hasn't been abandoned, because typically when you hit water, you go several feet past it. So whenever you're in drought conditions, you're still following the water table down because it fluctuates as well. So let's drop this nut until we find a bottom. And I hope it's 5, 6, 8 feet past the water level. Even deeper is even better. I feel like there might be some sludge down there because this is dropping slower than I would like, but it did drop a long ways. You know, if this is an old well, it's going to have to be pumped and flushed out. Yeah, see, it's dropping slow, but it did still drop. I'm almost thinking there's just dirt and mud and stuff in the bottom. Okay, so we're gonna go right there. I'm hoping we're at least another 5 feet down. This is exciting. The other thing I'm noticing, a lot of rust and iron. That's pretty typical for river water. We're probably gonna have to put a softener system in. Okay, we hit water around 8 feet, and now we are right at 16 feet. So that means we have 8 foot of level. And like I said, I feel like it's going down in some sludge and other stuff, so if we blow this well out, it probably goes a lot deeper than that. But now I know we at least have an 8 foot buffer for the water level to fluctuate. This makes me feel comfortable enough to go ahead and invest in a shallow well jet pump and hook all this up. Because as long as we're not over 25 feet, which we're nowhere near that, we can absolutely pull water up with a shallow well jet pump, and they're very affordable. All right, y'all, this is literally like striking gold. Water is life. It is everything. And man, can it get expensive as well. All right, so I already know what some of you were thinking. Well, is the water any good? What about all that? Well, we have to flush it out, get it clean. It's been sitting for who knows how many years or potentially decades. Because if I remember correctly, I think it was back in the early 90s when the permit was pulled on this. And I have no idea if water's ever ran out of it at all. So we'll get it flushed out, get our equipment over, and we'll have it to where we can pump some water out, send off, and get some water samples done to make sure there's nothing really bad going on down there and the water's nice and safe. That's something you absolutely should do. All right, so I'll get all that equipment ordered in. That'll take a couple of weeks to get everything set up. We'll bring over a water tote, a pump, flush this out, and then I'll show you how we'll install a shallow well. We'll have to build us a little platform and all that stuff up here too. And we'll have to do some sort of small bladder tank. Probably the second most important thing that you're gonna need on a property like this is power. So we've already got the power company out here. This power pole was here. It looks quite old, to be honest. We got a lot of repairs to do to it. They've got us power on now. We got the call, we're good to go. They come out and did their inspection. So now we're gonna go through, fix some of these problems and make sure all the outlets, breakers, and everything else are working. So let's go ahead and cover that in this episode as well. Then we'll have our 2 major utilities that we really need to start moving forward with some building over here. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode too. All right, again, I think a lot of this stuff was done a long time ago. This stuff looks old, wore out, mold, mildew. I'm assuming this was probably done in the early 90s whenever the well was put in, at least according to the building department. So let's go ahead and start flipping breakers on. Hopefully nothing pops and we've got major problems because I have no idea how the wires run underground. Looks like they had a camper in over there. We need to check and repair that plug. We've actually decided last minute we're gonna put a camper down here to stay in while we're building the cabin. It gives us a portable restroom to use down here. It gives me somewhere to crash and stay overnight whenever I've got deliveries coming first thing in the morning with building materials. Plus, we had a really good deal fall in our lap we couldn't turn down. After we're done using it for the next year and a half, I'm quite confident we're gonna be able to turn around and sell it and make some money on it because the deal was so good. Then we'll just put that money back into the cabin. All right, let's see here. All right, Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm not sure why the previous owners did what they did, but it looks like we've got our main 100 amp panel coming in here on a 100 amp pole. This is as large as we're allowed to run until we put a home in, then you can do 200 amp. And then they've already run a sub panel for some weird reason with 2 more breakers in it. They did have one more location here. We've got 2 receptacles, looks like a 20 amp and oh wow, okay, that's a 240 volt receptacle. Nothing that I really need down here. Interesting. I guess that's why they had to run the sub panel, because they run out of locations over here. This is 30 amp, most likely for an RV plug that's way over behind us. And a 15 amp for a receptacle and light that's over behind us that needs some repair thanks to a hurricane blowing a tree down on that stuff. So first things first, let's make sure everything's working as it should. We don't have breakers popping right off the bat. That's already a good sign. Take our handy dandy meter here. This should be a 240 volt plug, it looks like. Yeah, especially with them little funny angles in there. Yeah, so we're reading 241 volts, so we're good to go here, but we're honestly probably going to remove this. I guess we could leave it since it's got a good cover. Just got my little fancy tester kit in. I've used some stuff from this brand before. I call them Kyle Wheats, but I've been needing one of these anyways. You have to have it whenever we start doing our house electrical inspections, and this will allow you to actually hold and trip breakers, but it does something else cool that I like for quick testing like this. First of all, to tell you if you have a fault, if something's not wired correctly, and it quickly tells me voltage, 124 volts, this is reading correctly. All right, so voltage is good, no faults, everything's correct. Let's keep moving on. Obviously, this would never pass any sort of inspection. Cover's been ripped off, everything looks ancient right here. We're gonna take that out and put us a GFI receptacle in there and a whole new face to make it weatherproof. That's not gonna pass my standards either. All right, so we're heading over toward the river right here, and this is where some old electricals ran. I could tell they had a camper over here a long time ago. This is a light, but it's been smashed because a tree blew down over here in one of the last mini hurricanes. So we've got to replace that, that's no good. We got an exposed outlet over here, or exposed receptacle. Let's plug this in. I'm not reading voltage, but I think it's because I forgot to turn the breakers on. All right, so yes, I forgot to flip the breakers on that sub panel. So reading correctly, 124 volts, looking awesome. See, this is an old school panel here, and I found one of these online, the old Carlton panel, and it's got an outdoor rated switch. We're gonna replace this light with a new style that I found in case we want a little area light. We're always doing fires up there and walking down here and getting firewood, so it would be nice to have an area light here. And because this stuff's so old, it was done before you needed to have GFI outside. So we're gonna replace this with the GFI plug as well. All right, moving over here, this was all smashed when another tree blew down with a hurricane. You see, this is broke loose. This is loose. I actually had to pick all this up. And this is a camper plug right here. They used to have a camper here. I can see where their old blocks and setup was. We got to repair all this, and we're actually gonna use this plug. 121 volt, perfect. We just need to repair that. And we're just gonna stick the camper right here with a river view for the next month or two until we get our first structure on the property built. A pole barn is going in over there. We've already ordered it. We need it for all the equipment and the house building materials. Y'all, we do have one major problem we got to address though, coming up in the next episode. This huge dead pine tree, well, it wants to fall right down where the camper's going. So we're gonna have to take that thing down before we bring any equipment over here. And of course, I always show this, the whole reason we have this property. For one, to bring y'all some content and an awesome house build series, and this view right here. We can't thank y'all enough for watching and supporting the channel so we can do some awesome, amazing things like this. We don't take it for granted. All right, let's go ahead and kill power to absolutely everything. I always like to verify, especially on something that I did not install, in case there's something crazy going on inside. Absolutely no voltage showing. Let's start making some repairs, getting this old junk out of here, getting some of the more current up-to-code GFI stuff installed, and weatherproof enclosures. Yeah, I can see where there's water intrusion and everything else went on here. I don't even think there was a seal on the back side of that cover, or either there used to be and it was absolutely deteriorated. So this needed to happen one way or another. Let's get it done right. All right, in order to get this up to standard, all your outdoor receptacles should be GFI or GFI breaker protected, one or the other. So I've picked up a bunch of GFI receptacles for out here. We always like to do a little education and teaching on the channel. So whenever you're hooking up a GFI receptacle, you're gonna notice there is 2 connections, much like a standard receptacle, except they function completely different on GFI. Once this senses any sort of a ground fault, it automatically trips, saving you, especially like in a damp or wet location to where it can be extremely dangerous. There's a line side up top. That's where you connect for your line power coming in, and there's a load side on the bottom. Maybe you could read it, maybe you can't. You've got to make for sure your power coming in goes to the line side. You do load side out if you're going to daisy chain more receptacles down the line. And believe it or not, contrary to popular belief, this one receptacle will protect standard receptacles down the line. If those sense any sort of ground fault, this will trip, killing power to absolutely everything, just like a GFI breaker would here. Now take what I say with a grain of salt. Your local code could be completely different and overrule some of this stuff that I'm saying. But around here, GFI receptacles absolutely work for outdoor use and or super expensive breakers. Go with the receptacles unless you have a bunch in line. These ends are so corroded. We're gonna cut them off. Get some fresh wire, clean all this mess up. Yeah, this stuff is really, really old. All right, so we got all the electrical hooked up. I'm gonna be tearing all this out later. This is old rotten post anyways, and we're gonna be changing that receptacle to 110 volt standard receptacle. Get rid of this camper plug once we move the camper down to where the new barn's gonna go. So I'm just gonna use this little device. You can hold this up to a wire and it'll let you know if it reads voltage. All right, it's sensing the voltage going through there. I wanna make sure I haven't tripped nothing, nothing's happened since we hooked all this up. And yes, y'all, I know this lamp is technically supposed to be upside down, but it's got a full rubber gasketed seal. This screws in, runs water over. I think it's gonna be just fine. It's the closest thing I could find to what the original owner had there. All right, we're getting power to both. That means none of our GFIs tripped. We're good to go. Let's go over and check this other stuff. All right, so we can flip these breakers back off. We know power's going over there. Stick that in there. Power's still going to that one. I could care less about the 240. Actually, I'll just go ahead and kill everything. All right, y'all, this was a really, really good day. Some tests that we need to come over and make happen. It's looking promising on the water, still not guaranteed yet. Fingers crossed, we flush the well out, the water tests okay, and we can pump from there, save all that money. The electrical's looking buttoned up now, as far as basic electrical, what the previous owner had. In the next episode, we're gonna be doing some clearing out over here. I'm gonna explain all the wetland surveys and stuff we had to have done. We're putting up a pole barn, then we're gonna have to pull a permit and trench some wire over to the barn. The list goes on and on and on. We're also still working on house plans, and we'll discuss the location of the potential little small house that we're gonna build down here. It's been a heck of a long road just to get to this point, just with all the environmental stuff and all the people we had to hire and everything else. We'll explain all that in the next episode. We're gonna be bringing the tractor down here, the excavator, doing some cleaning up. We got to get these old hurricane damaged trees out of here. Need to clean up the property a little and make room for that barn. Now what I'll do is get online, order one of those shallow well pumps, and then in a couple weeks we'll install it and go through this exciting episode of testing the water and getting all that figured out. Oh, I'm so excited. I cannot wait for that one. We'll see y'all in the next episode. We're gonna be down here starting to do our first prep work for our first structure. That's pretty exciting. Catch you on the next one.